HR followed FMLA protocol perfectly, and they still got a $40,000 claim on their desk. Here's what went wrong. Yeah, that sucks. I need advice because I'm completely devastated. I'm an HR manager and I just found out we're being sued for FMLA retaliation, and I don't understand how this happened because I followed every single step of the process correctly. 3 months ago, an employee mentioned she was having some health issues and might need to take time off. I immediately recognized this as a potential FMLA request. I provided her with all the paperwork within the 5-day deadline. I tracked her leave carefully. I made sure her health insurance stayed active. I documented everything in our HRIS system. She took 6 weeks of leave and returned to work without any issues. 2 months after she returned, her manager terminated her for performance issues. The manager had been documenting problems for the past month. Late arrivals, missed deadlines, attitude issues with coworkers. Now she's claiming retaliation. Her attorney is saying the termination was because she took FMLA leave. But I did everything right with the FMLA process. The performance issues were real and documented. Here's what I just found out. During her leave, her manager sent her multiple text messages asking when she'd be back and telling her how much the team was struggling without her. After she returned, the manager made comments to other employees about how convenient her leave timing was and how they just couldn't rely on her anymore. I had no idea any of this happened. The manager never told me about these conversations. Now, the company is looking at a $40,000 plus settlement, and leadership is asking why HR didn't prevent this. How is this my fault when I followed every FMLA rule perfectly? My name is Alex Castro. I'm a labor and employment attorney with AXC Legal PLLC in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Everything we're going to talk about here today, this is not legal advice, so if you need a lawyer to talk about your situation because it sounds similar to this, conveniently, there's a link below to schedule a consultation with me. And it's a really, really common story because the kind of administration of FMLA, it's pretty much always on HR at smaller companies. But how the employee is treated after that, or even during it sometimes, that's really more about the one-to-one that you've got with the manager-employee relationship, not HR, right? As HR, you're there processing the paperwork. You might be having some communications about like medical certifications and notes and whatever and return to work dates. So yeah, you as HR might have done everything perfectly, but then you've got this jackass manager who's like giving this employee endless amounts of grief about their leave and how it's affecting the team, not really caring about the fact that this employee is on a legally protected leave status, which means leave it alone. Let her be and recover. What you can do about this as HR is there's only so much that's on you at this point. Like, you might have done everything here perfectly, and the liability here really comes from the way that the manager handled it, right? The way that the manager made this person feel bad because they took this leave, or because they started being hypervigilant and over documenting and all that sort of stuff. All of a sudden when they come back, well, yeah, that sure looks like FMLA retaliation, right? That looks like somebody who was mad that you took this time off and now kind of wants to get back at you, and they're doing it under the guise of all these other things that they think are fair. So what you can do about this as HR is, unfortunately, it's just all about training and discussions. You might need to build in a protocol where if you know that somebody's going on an FMLA leave, you have a 20, 30-minute one-to-one with the manager telling them about, hey, this is how we handle this employee while they are out on protected leave. And that can look like any number of things. That can be just reminding the manager about how we're not supposed to make anybody feel bad for taking this leave, because then that looks like, interference or retaliation. Or even things like, hey, while this employee is on protected leave, there's no need for you as the manager to talk to them about things. So communication should really only come from HR, or at a minimum, should at least be approved by HR. Because if this employee is not working, why do you need to be talking to them? So HR can take the management and the kind of like training approach, which is sometimes just really, really tough to manage because leadership organizations everywhere are increasingly resistant to extra training, extra time away from like the core function so that people know, how to manage liability, right? A lot of leadership just wants to get the job done. They want to keep the gears moving so that the business makes money. And every time that you propose more training or something like that, you get some pushback. One thing that I do for a lot of my clients is I just give them a one sheet where I say, hey, here's a one sheet on do's and don'ts to give to your managers, so that when you've got somebody who's going on an FMLA or has got an ADA accommodation or whatever the situation may be, you can just give that to them and they can keep it on their desk or they can refer to it. It's easy to digest. It doesn't have the same pushback as more management training or whatnot, and it gets at least most of the points across. But at some point, whether or not the message is fully received and whether the manager acts on it, there's nothing really you can do about that. And if you're finding yourself repeatedly in organizations where your advice is being ignored and people are creating liability in an employment law context, even though you've kind of done your part of the gig perfectly, might be time to get up and go. Another thing you can do is propose to leadership a rule that says if anybody's going to be fired or written up for anything within 6 or 12 months of their coming back from leave, that needs to go through HR and signed off on before it actually happens. And if any of this sounds like something you need help with, click the link below to schedule a consultation with me.